What's up, guys? This is Chokenator or on Andre or Chokenator if you know me from my stream. This is episode 2 of Getting Good, and now we have the best melee players in the region, Super Smash Bros. Melee. I've seen all these guys come up from when they started out playing up to now, and they are all pretty sick. And just to clarify, I could have gotten Smash 4 players on here, but it's hard to compare our region Smash 4 players with the world stage because none of them have ever really been successful at like a major, whereas these guys have done pretty well. So in comparison to the rest of the world, these guys are actually pretty good because there's some evidence there. Um, Maybe I'll do a Smash 4 episode, maybe I won't. But anyways, just to get to these guys, uh, I guess you guys can introduce yourselves, starting with I have Spark, Azel, and Ryan like in this grid here. So Zaid first.
Hi, I'm Zaid. My tag is Spark. I play Sheik, and that is me.
Yeah. And then Azel.
Alright. My name's Joseph, and my tag's Azel, and I play Falco.
Azel, not Azel, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then
Okay. I'm Ryan. My tag is Young Traplord, and I also play Falco.
okay, sick. And my name's Chokenator. I play Captain Falcon, right? I play Captain Falcon. But that doesn't matter because I'm trash now. These guys are good. So I think I know you guys are all young, and I just wanna the very first question. I don't want to ask like from the very beginning what was your journey of melee, but when did you start like wanting to get good? Was it from the beginning? I mean, most of us started as a casual, but when did you start like really wanting to get good? Anyway, it's open forum.
I
yeah.
could start.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought this is probably similar to like a lot of new players' story, but I literally thought I was like, oh, I'm just the best of this game. Like I'm not unbeatable, and because I never lose to any of my friends when I was a little kid, right? And I don't know that tournaments exist, so there's a player from our region named G Swain, and he brought a console to our school when we were still in high school, and he just destroyed me. And at that, he told me tournaments existed, and he showed me Leffen versus Chillin' Dude first to 5, and I was just like, from that moment, I had a thought in my head like, I don't want to be Chillin' Dude, I want to be like Leffen. So that's how I started trying to be good.
Wow, nice.
For me, I saw the game. I saw the documentary because my close elementary school friend showed it to me, and I instantly really liked the idea of just nerding out about the game and having this cool community and being able to go to in-person stuff because I think I get a lot of energy in social situations. So I just like that, and I just really wanted to go to stuff. But I didn't really care about getting good for the first like 3-4 months. I wanted to be respected because I think if I thought to myself, if I'm bad, nobody's gonna respect me. So I didn't care about being really good. I just want to reach a respectable level to where I can have friends and have a good time. But then like 4 months in, I'm like, I want to be sick. I want to be the best.
Yeah.
Alright. As for me, as like a really young kid, I always played Smash. I played Brawl first. Brawl was actually my first Smash game, which probably sounds weird to you guys.
The Brawl
but
Master.
yeah. I played Brawl casually, and I played with like my friends, family, and stuff like that. So, like as a kid, I always loved like Nintendo games. So, and Smash was one of my favorite for sure. And then I think when Smash 4 came out, I got that, and I think I saw like a YouTube video or something. I watched Zero a lot back then, for those of you who don't know. And after that, I just got like really interested in the competitive scene. And then I think the first interaction I had with Melee was one of Zero's videos where he like analyzes one of his sets. I think it was like versus Dark or something. I was like, wow, Melee is like super sick. So after that, I just like looked into Melee more and that's just how I got
It's
into
actually
it.
crazy that content is what introduced you to it. Because I always thought like sometimes when people have like cross a little bit, it doesn't like they say it'll bring new people in, but I don't really believe it. But here's evidence.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just think
It really helps. I mean, for me, it was like back in the day. Obviously, people talk about like Shine Blind. That's like one of the key ones for me back then. But Azel, I don't know if you mentioned at which point did you like actually want to like get good at it?
Uh, it was around when I started net playing. I
Mm,
think it was like a few months after I like discovered, competitive like Smash 4 and stuff like that.
mm, I see.
But yeah, it was around that time.
And
I
you guys
think
were. Go ahead, Brian.
I was gonna say I think the question of like when did you want to get good is like interesting to me because I wouldn't think of it that way. Like anything you do, you want to be good at, right?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
I guess for me, when like the moment I started playing the game, I'm like, oh, I want to be like the best at this game.
Mm.
There was never a question of like, oh, do I actually want to start trying now?
Right, that's true. But that's the thing. That's not in everyone's DNA, right? Some
Right.
people are just
Yeah.
like, I just want to play Kirby. And,
yeah, I
Yeah.
think people have different motivations for wanting to be number one.
Mhm.
I think what's most common in people is literally some primal animalistic urge to be that dominant alpha male. And I think that's actually very bad because most people get those dreams crushed, and that's why they become salt lords on netplay that you farm with like one hand. But if
Right.
you like really appreciate the game and love improvement, I think that's more healthy and constructive. A more healthy and constructive reason for becoming the best.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the
Mhm.
a way that will get you there more reliably than being a salt lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can have both. There
Yeah,
are
that's
many
true.
very good salt lords.
Yeah, there
That's
are.
true. That's very true.
Melee is a game with many very good.
Yeah,
salt.
as they say, there are many ways to the mountaintop, and one of
Yeah.
them is salt.
Mhm.
Potentially. I mean, it's a lot less fun, I'm sure, but if
If
it
you
gets you
pile
there.
up enough salt, it's as tall as a mountain.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you just keep being salty and keep practicing, eventually it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
But you're just gonna be in pain the whole time.
Ugh,
Right.
doesn't sound fun.
It's gotta be fun, otherwise it's not a good hobby.
Was there a
Definitely
point
not.
for you guys where like that was like a mental barrier, like specifically salt, but just mental barriers in general? Were there any like ones you really had to get over in order to get better? Like, was there anything like holding you back mentally?
For me, I think I'm a rare case in which this doesn't happen because, um, not because I'm like naturally. I don't think it's like a genes thing. I think it's because really early on, I've already told this to you. My weird brother made me read "Playing to Win" by David Serlin
Oh,
in
right.
6th grade SSR, and I don't know why he made me read that, but it was very helpful. Yeah, and it immediately shattered all of my stupid things like, oh, this is when you play
Cheap.
like Mario Kart or something, you're like, this is cheap, this
Yeah.
is lame, this is like you're not playing fair, all this stupid stuff. All of these terrible mindsets that hinder your improvement. So right off the bat, I was like, good mentality. Right off the bat, like as soon as I got wobbled, I was just like, "This is I gotta overcome this." And right off the bat, when people say, "Oh, Sheik loses to Ices," I'm like, "I'm gonna prove you wrong."
Right.
So yeah.
For me, I had a lot of the salt at the beginning. Even when I was very new, anyone I hadn't played before, I was like, I'm gonna be better than this guy, and I should be beating him.
Hmm.
Even when I'm losing like really bad over and over, I would just be like, I don't understand. Like I should be winning right now because I'm better. And I also think that like the Smash community and the fighting game community in a lot of ways is like it's very like ass backwards, for lack of a better word, in terms of helping people improve. Because they say that moves are lame or strategies are lame and stuff, and those are often the good strategies
Right.
that people say are bad or lame or like wrong to use, and so it discourages people from like being able to learn.
Mhm.
And I think that was a barrier for me too. Like just having to get past like when I would beat people and they're like, "Oh, that was lame," and then I feel like I didn't really win.
I
But
see.
you just have to be able to realize that the other people are just salty.
Yeah, there's a different like perspective on it, right? Like the majority of people are casual, or if not even viewers, like viewers of major streams, like 20,000 viewers, most of them are casuals. And if they see Ice Climbers or Jigglypuff doing their thing on screen, they're gonna be like, "Oh, this is really stupid and lame," right? But I think that's why top players are such a minority, because so few people can actually get over that and be like, "I just got to defeat this," you know? No excuses. This is just thing. I just have to get past it. Yeah.
I really admire that being good at melee often correlates with being a better you, and I think you have to sort of overcome that mental barrier in order to reach it. Although a lot of people just get there by constant practice fueled by salt, as you mentioned. Also, I do want to add a disclaimer to my thing. That doesn't mean I don't ever get frustrated. I think we all do, but I've noticed for me, I think it happens a lot less often. And when it does happen, I'm very quick to remedy it. And if not, then I usually, at least by after the session or whatever, I'll be like, I need to really fix this. But usually, even before then, I can tell myself to not.
Mhm.
I have one more question that's like mentality related. Like, what do you think? I mean, we talked about like some of our weaknesses, but what do you think are the good parts of your mentality, in particular?
I guess I'll go first, but
Okay, yeah, Zay just
even though
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
talked.
go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
go ahead.
I think good parts of my mentality is I acknowledge when something's my fault, and I'm patient. I'm optimistic, and because I view Sheik as like good, whereas a lot of people think she's a little not too good. But because I tell myself she's good, I don't ever feel like it's not my fault. Or yeah, I always feel like it is completely my fault, and well, it's hard to think. I think good parts of my mentality is I don't get, obviously I've already said I don't really often get too angry, but I do get sad. Like I think that's my version. I get like
I
sad.
see.
I'm running in circles. I'm not improving. I'm just running in a wall. I'm not. My work ethic isn't good enough. My work ethic isn't smart enough. I'm just running in circles. What am I doing in my life?
Dang.
So yeah.
Okay. For me, the strongest part of my mentality is going back to what I said was a block for me. It's also the strongest thing is like being confident. Like I've never gone into a set like I'm gonna lose.
Oh,
That's never happened to me. I could play like Hungry Box, and when I was new, I probably would be like, yeah, I'm gonna beat this guy. When now I'm not expecting to win, but I'm never expecting to lose. Which I think a lot of people get stuck being like pretty average because they're like, oh, this guy's just he's too good.
That happens to a lot of people. It's really dumb. I think like they're like
it's really dumb, but it's
Yeah.
the majority of people for sure.
Right.
Like
Right.
yeah.
Like they can't get past like the expectation. Like, oh, this guy's
Mhm.
ranked higher. Even if he's one rank higher than me, there's no way I'll win. You know, it's really silly.
Yeah, it's a bunch. People need to realize that melee. It's just a bunch of little things. When you look at the big picture, who wins, who loses, it really is just a bunch of little things. And if you can just break it down step by step, keep at it, eventually you can do well. And it won't take you that long. It really won't. As long as you do it right.
I guess it's my turn now.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you haven't said too much, and
Yeah,
you got your
sorry.
project, so I feel like you gotta make up for the fact that you're not doing your
Yeah,
project.
I have a lot I need to do. But anyway, I think for me, the strongest part of my mentality is probably the fact that I'm always willing to learn. You know, I love improving, and I don't really care too much about like winning or losing. uh, like I always try to figure out, what I did wrong and stuff like that. Like
Mm.
that's just my main focus, really. I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't care about winning or losing. It means that like I care more about improving. Is the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think when people win or lose, a gigantic thing is like they they attach so much value and meaning to it.
Right.
So if you beat someone who like say he's always had your number and you just want to get that juicy when you finally win. But then this guy's like, "Oh, dude, I had this midterm and I haven't slept in 6 days." And like, I mean, I'm just gonna have a good time. That's like your rival right then, and then
Yeah.
you're just like, I'm playing out of my mind, having a good day today, and you beat him like 3-2. You're like, yes, finally I did it. I've overcome this hurdle. Like you're an anime character, and he's just like, do what? I mean, good game. And then the next week you just get destroyed again. You're like, what happened? Now I'm choking.
Yeah.
You just attach so much meaning to it. Like, if I win, that means I'm better. Or something like that. Or, like, if I take a friendly, that means I'm improving.
Oh my god.
It doesn't necessarily mean you're improving. Like, it's just statistics. Eventually, you could win one. They could SD. This is a game where you can literally kill yourself. There's so many factors in determining both players' gameplay. So, I think... I'm exaggerating, but I think even to a lesser degree, it's bad to like attach so much meaning to like, oh, I need to take one set off this guy because it's so much. There's so much value in the short term. You need to really look at like the long term about actually improving, about actual work ethic, and that's where people like just want that quick win, and that's not worth it.
Something I think it's hard for non-competitors to like wrap their head around is the idea of like you can beat someone and you could literally still be worse than them. You can beat them in a tournament and you might still not be as good as them. And it sounds stupid because it's like if you won, then you're better, right? But it's just not always the case. You need to prove it multiple times, and everyone has off days and stuff like that. So you shouldn't put too much stock into a crazy win, but also into a bad loss.
Yeah.
And I think if you can do that, then your mentality will get better.
The graph is never a straight line. It's always this jagged. Like improvement is just like based on results is just not going to give you a straight line.
Did you guys see Nairo's tweet where he was watching Zero talk about his win streak? That was so
Zero's
funny.
like, I was playing bad.
Yeah, Zero was like, I had the best win streak. I had a Guinness World Record. And the only reason I lost is because I had an off day. And then Nairo paused the video and he's like, an off day? Really?
Didn't he kill him at the top of like 40%?
Zero suit up.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
I'm pretty
say,
sure, yeah.
At the same
I think
time,
he
though,
did.
I think Zero is the one who's right. in
Yeah,
this
no, yeah, that's true.
scenario.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I have a question though, like to follow up what Zaid said. You can't put too much meaning in winning or losing, but you can't put none at all. I think
You can't put
where
none
I'm
at
at
all.
right now, I put zero value in winning and losing. That's why I just troll all the time. But you have to put some value in it, or else you
Yeah,
probably
it's a
won't.
matter of like your judgments being as close to the truth as possible, but sadly most people's egos interfere with that to the point where they overjudge or overinflate their skill. Like, oh, I won this one friendly off this guy, he's hella good, time to make a tweet about it and hashtag improvement. Obviously another exaggeration. But obviously, like, I don't know, you can sort of subconsciously feel if you were like playing in a state of flow and you're learning things, and even if it's just learning things on the fly, you're noticing real genuine like improvement because it feels really good. It's hard to explain, but like you have to draw the line like, oh, I won, and I also was like thinking a lot, and I just happened to be doing well that day. But and so that like you can sort of take stock in that, but you can't just only look at the result. Like, what if he literally ran off the stage 4 times?
Right.
Obviously, nobody's going to say they're improving then, but it's an...
Right.
Yeah.
I think for me, It's about you should care if you win or lose, but the caring should occur before the result. So you should want to win, and then once you've won, it's like on to the next challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you lose, you should care that you lost, but not in a way where you're being all emo and a little bitch, like, oh, I'm so sad that I lost. I
Right.
hate myself. It should be, why did I lose?
Mm.
How do I fix that next time? So it depends on the kind of value you put into these
Mhm.
situations.
Right. So I think when you have that emotional response, like I'm lost and I'm sad or I'm upset or I'm mad, and then it stops there, it's completely useless thinking or feeling.
Right.
Even. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
we have players from our region who could be so much better if they would drop that mentality.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. But I do think it's human to grieve. It's a very vague spectrum because I think we all suffer to a degree.
Yeah.
Losing hurts. But
Right.
it's just like after 8 minutes, I'll be like, all right, what do I do now?
Yeah.
But-
Exactly,
whereas this
exactly.
guy will be like this for like 2 months and be like, yeah, I'm taking a break from the game. I think it's good for my mentality. And you're just like, play. You'll get better if you play.
Yeah.
Nah, dude, I gotta take a 2-month break. You know, you gotta refresh the juices.
And that says something about those players, right? The approach is wrong,
Mhm.
Right.
because they're looking to fulfill something through the win instead of
Their goals are reflected in their actions, and it's clear that their goals are very short term. Like, even if they say their goals are like, I want to be the best, their goals are really just to like beat that one Peach player.
yeah. And this
Like
is
one time.
what I think for players that are actually good. A lot of times, enjoying or losing can be more enjoyable if you're used to just bodying, people you're better than. There's actually very little value in beating someone who didn't challenge you at all. You know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
It's boring. You don't even
It's just
wanna play
about.
with them.
It's just like. It's like I only enjoy beating someone like very badly who is much worse than me if you can tell they exude these ego vibes, because I'm just like, yes. Yes, like they took a friendly up my like Falco, and they're just like, I'm seeing improvement. And I was like, I killed myself 2 times. Have
Yeah.
you seen my Falco? And then I play them. I don't need to say anything. I just play them, and I'm like, yes. And hopefully they'll realize that that was a mistake in taking emotional stock in the value of that friendly.
Azel, I see you smiling when I mention not being valuable when you beat someone weaker than you. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I just thought.
You
Does it
just like being
does
a
it just
part of
happen
it.
so much because you're so much better than everyone else? I'm just kidding.
Pretty much, yeah.
It does happen a lot, dude.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, you farm, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing I want to mention. Moving on, I think mentality is obviously something you need in order to get good. But I also feel that mentality is also this sort of facade of top players that, like we mentioned, there are a lot of different mentalities you can have and still improve. But the actual improvement part is what so many people ignore, like the hours of grinding and practice. And most people, there can be players with a very good mentality, but their practice is just all wrong. So what do you guys think? Like, how?
Mhm.
First of all, how do you practice? But what do you think there is missing in like other people's way of practicing?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this because that's where I feel so many people get caught up. I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure you all know who I'm talking about when I say one person, like, they put so much value in the importance of mentality, and that's great and all. They don't practice ever. And I really think that I divide it into 2 things, just mindset and just work ethic. And in the work ethic category, it's the same as like it is in everything else in life. Getting good at it. If you're passionate about it, you're more likely to do well in practicing for it. If you're not, it's probably not for you. Just requires hours, hard work. That's it. And then the mindset aspect is just like that's where the beauty of competition really shows itself, because it's like you need to win. I'm a proponent of the inner game of tennis, And I think like that's where like there's an outer game, there's an inner game, and you have to win that inner game. It's the mindset thing. And I also think that's where a lot of people mess up because so many top players, when they talk about mentality, they say things that are fundamentally contradictory to that book. And I'm a proponent of it, so I'm like, that's wrong. But I don't say anything because I'm not trying to fight on Twitter.
I just want to say, I actually have no idea who Zayd was talking about.
No, I'm not sure either, but some people come to mind vaguely.
Yeah, there are
Yeah,
people
yeah.
I think it could be, but I don't know the one guy. But anyway, when talking about practicing, because the question was like how to practice efficiently.
Oh, I didn't even answer that.
I'd say this applies to like 99% of players. You need to be focusing on like killing off of your openings mostly, because I think a lot of people, especially me when I was first starting, put too much stock into this stuff like, oh, I gotta ledge dash run JC shine pivot nair, do all this fancy stuff, when really you could be so much better if you just learned how to, like, say you're a Fox player, for example, if you just learn to tech chase 3 times with up smash, you'll be way better at the game. Way better at the game than if you learn to, like, shorten edge cancel side B and stuff like that. But I think those things are more obvious, and that's why newer players, especially in the modern era, they gravitate towards this stuff because, you know, when it happens in a professional match, the commentators are like, oh, he did the multi-shine. And then, you know, the new players like, this is what makes them good.
Yeah, exactly.
So they go towards that. But the things you want to be focusing on when you're new is just getting as much damage as possible after the initial hit.
Yeah, I have a flow chart for improving from the very beginning of Melee. It's actually based on Nick Whittier's flow chart. It's very simple. It's just 4 things. The first one is tech skill. The second one is punish game. The third one is DI. And the fourth one is neutral game. And I see so often, not only is it the whole multi-shine thing, that's useless tech skill.
Yeah.
Like
that's step 0.
Borderline useless. But like stuff like just wave dashing really consistently and things like that. Just being able to move so well and often and in many different ways to the point where it's so second nature. It's just like you're actually moving. That's like very important. That's all I did when I first started. And like I didn't know how to improve, but that's like I was just obsessed with making my movement clean. And then I just played a ton of net play, and that's where my punish game developed. I watched videos, and it sort of just eventually, after watching so many videos, like I just want to be better at like punishing. Eventually, it just naturally sort of flowed when I played 1,000,000 hours of net play. Then DI I learned much later, and neutral game is something where like, neutral game. I feel like so many newish players talk about how they need to improve their neutral game, and I'm like, no, I never thought about that until I was 300. I literally never thought about that until I was like a ranked NorCal PR player. You just don't need to worry about it. You just play the game, and then it automatically comes to you, and then everything else.
It's actually frustrating to like a ridiculous degree to hear newer players talking about how they need to, you know, have a better neutral, or I just need to adapt better.
Right.
When like, to be blunt about it, they really have no idea what they're talking about. And like, no matter how much effort they put into improving their neutral, nothing will ever happen.
Right.
Because like they don't understand the game well enough yet. And
what was that thing you said? The something effect where they pretend like they know. They're telling themselves they know.
That's the Dunning-Kruger effect, right?
Yeah.
The less you know about something, the closer you think you are to an expert. So like a good example is right here with us right now. Like Azel, a newer player, like when I was new, I'm the best. I know everything about this game. But Azel, he gets better at the game and he's like, I suck, dude.
Yeah,
I don't know anything.
Exactly.
And it's because he knew there's more depth to the game than I thought there was. I thought I had reached, the ceiling. And because of that, I think I'm an expert. But then Azel knows there's much more to learn. So he thinks, in comparison to these guys, I suck.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the level of depth at the top level is actually insane. Like the better you get, the more little tiny, very, very extremely minute situations that you're realizing, oh, I need to get better at that situation. And I like what you said about like newer players caring too much about the neutral. Like for example, if someone like a lot of times they will just die because they missed a wave dash. Like they will just air dodge, and
Mhm.
it's like that's not a neutral mistake, but you
Mhm.
just messed up your button. Um,
Yeah.
and they just like it was a you talked about movement. You just have to have control over your character. Like you have to just
Yeah.
do what you tell it to do.
Oh, I have something pretty important to say about that. I feel like I'm hogging all the
No,
mic
it's all
though,
right.
No, dude.
but
It's all good.
I think that something that super proves my point is neutral is great and all. It's great that you care about it, but think about this. I think an example would be when Marth grabs me and he up throws me and I tap jump out versus 95% of Marths, and then they do the dumb up tilt because they don't think I can jump out, but I do.
Right.
And then I come down and aerial needle them, which confirms into grab, and then I kill them. They died for winning neutral.
Right.
Right.
Why are they caring about improving their neutral game when they die every time they win it? Like they need to focus on the steps, the tech skill, the punishes, the understanding of when I can jump out. It's not about neutral right now. You need to focus on this because it doesn't matter in your results.
I want to
that's
add
a good
that
example.
the place most people get stuck, or at least in my observation, it's not usually tech skill. Like eventually, people realize like, okay, I'm missing a million wave dashes. I need to figure this
Yeah.
out. But it really is like the punish game. I think the way combos work in Melee, people have a tendency to think that like their punish game has peaked out, and they're like, I don't need to practice this anymore. But that's literally never the case.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're the best in the world, they'll always, someone will find, because of the DI system in Melee, like some stupid way to escape your combo, and then you have to adapt to it.
You know, it's interesting for me in particular. I always put a lot of focus on neutral, but I mained ice climbers.
Ice climb, yeah.
So I didn't have to think about punish game. I never had to. So
It's crazy.
I think it's interesting that I mean I was one of the obstacles for each of you guys in getting good. Just one of the obstacles, but it was a nice grind for you guys because you would just go wobbled at every single mistake. So it really forced you to like learn the ins and outs of that character. And I think it was just I'm happy to be that stepping stone because it's a silly because for me I just never had to think about punish game or yeah.
To add on to what Zane and Ryan were talking about, for the first 2 years, like my main practice was literally just comboing a CPU on 20XX.
Yeah.
That was all I did when I first started, and it wasn't until like super recently that I started focusing on like neutral and everything else like that. Like for me, like the main important thing was just basic tech skill and learning to punish people as hard as I can. And yeah, like that was it really.
Yeah, I think this is definitely something that players need to understand is that the punish game is what dictates neutral. Because a punish is heavy, it makes certain options more valuable. For me, wobbling, you don't want to get grabbed. For Marth, I don't know, you don't want to get grabbed. There's like certain moves you don't want to get hit by because they lead into a lot.
Yeah, in Lot's Guide, I believe it's the distribution of weight. I think I'm using that right.
Right.
What does that mean?
Yeah, just like if this is valuable, if grab is the most valuable thing as ice climbers, like it's you should avoid it at like more than other things like up air. If you had a choice between getting up aired or getting grabbed, you should pick the up air. So that's why when I do a fair and or if I realize I fucked up, I'll buffer jump instead of buffering roll, because if they read the jump, they get an up air, but they don't get a grab. So.
Right. So yeah, like just as a like hypothetical example to add on to what you guys are saying, if you imagine a world where ice climbers can't wobble, think about
Whoa, hold on. Whoa, my connection. Holy
all of
moly.
their other options become all of it. Wait, what happened?
Sorry, my connection
no.
just slowed down for like 5 seconds. So keep going.
Okay, so like if ice climbers don't have wobbling, all of their other options become terrible options that are like actually not too bad. I know people like to in like the modern day act like ice climbers are like this bottom 5 trash character. They're actually pretty good.
They're
But-
good.
Yeah, but my point is like their up air is pretty good, right? But without wobbling, it becomes nigh useless and like a terrible move because you're not going to be catching many jumps with it, and if you jump, you're pretty exposed with ice climbers. But because of wobbling, up air becomes good.
Right.
So that
right.
really shows how the punish game dictates the way the neutral is played.
Mhm.
Because Fox wouldn't be platform camping you if you didn't have wobbling. You know, he
Exactly.
would just run and kill you.
Yeah.
The risk reward would be such that, like, oh, dang, I lost neutral. I got that. I got 30%. All right, let's run in again.
Yeah.
Do a done nair. Let's do another dope nair, says the Fox name.
And it wouldn't be dumb at that point either.
Yeah.
Like it would actually be good to do the what's stupid to us. But if wobbling didn't exist, why not just rush ice climbers? They're terrible.
Yeah.
I actually think rushing ice climbers as Fox is the right way to do it, but it's like hard.
It's really hard.
Right. Yeah, but exactly, it'd be much easier.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
the best
Yeah.
way for everyone to do it,
Mhm.
rather than just like a technical player.
Yeah. And
That
in the
makes sense.
same way, on the opposite end, because you get nothing off of a move, it would render it useless in the neutral.
Yeah.
And like for example, I think Marth Fair is it's a great move, right? But at low percent, you can die for it, depending on the wave space, stuff like that.
If you miss space, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Punish game, super important. New players get on that.
Please.
Yeah.
Get
Please
on
get
that.
on that. Yeah.
And don't feel intimidated. A lot of it's so intuitive, but it's just a matter, like a lot of this stuff we're talking about, where we're like distribution of weights. You're like, oh, do I need to take notes? No, just play the game enough, and you're like, oh yeah, grab, avoid that. I don't really care if I don't, if it's something that's not grab, I'm chilling. But just avoid the grab. It's stuff like that. You'll get it if you just keep playing. That's the main thing. People think it's this hard, difficult thing. You just have to really enjoy the movement of Melee. If it's not, as long as it's a game that you enjoy, it won't be that hard. And then you just play a ton of net play.
Oh, my connection is crapping out again. Uh-oh. Hold on, guys. Oh.
AT&T.
Yeah, it's AT&T. Holy moly. Okay, sorry about
Let's
that.
get it.
You good there?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so this is for like lower to mid-level players, like the focus on punish game, obviously. But once you do practice those things, once your movement's clean, once your punish is clean, the neutral starts to matter again. And one thing I noticed on my journey to getting better before is that neutral is in this extremely vague idea. The idea of neutral, the idea of quote unquote footsies is a lot of people like attach this term to it when it's really vague and it's based on another person's decisions a lot of the time. So what do you guys say? Like, how do you learn it?
A good way to start when assuming you have these other things like relatively good is to just have one simple like idea of what are they gonna do and how do I counter that, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you can do that, that's like the first step. And I think something else that's really important is people talk a lot about like adaptation, but you actually shouldn't adapt until the other person has proven that they're going to adapt to what you're doing.
Right.
So if you're just let's just create an extreme example. Let's say you're Sheik and you're playing this Fox and he just keeps running straight at you and you just forward tilt him. Forward tilt fair. Why would I as Sheik stop using forward tilt fair if Fox is going to run straight at me every single time? I think people make it more complicated than that though, and they try to adapt preemptively when it's.
I think a good proponent of that sort of strategy is Sleepy K. He loves to, when he sees someone who's clearly not changing what they're doing, he will make sure he does the same counter every time, so the player themselves will be like, I'm doing something so wrong. Like I remember I played against the Peach, and like the Peach only dash attacked, and I'm like, huh. I'm going to only laser, and when he gets a little closer, I'm going to shield.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to not stop shielding. And then so I'll laser, he'll run across the stage, and I'll be like... And then like 5 seconds will pass, and then he'll be like, dash attack, and I'll be like, yeah. And then I'll kill him.
It's almost like an educational way of punishing someone. Like
Yeah.
you're trying to let them know. Because you could punish them with something different every time.
Yeah,
but...
it's sort of like in a single player game where instead of telling you in words what to do, the human brain, shout out to Inner Game of Tennis, focuses more or is better at dealing with images, like imagery. And so rather than telling you in words, that's good. But what could be better is you doing it yourself. Like in a single player game, they just show you the tutorial by making you do stuff and figuring it out on your own, rather than saying press A to jump and stuff like that. So in this scenario, I'm actually showing them, you're only doing this, my man.
Yeah.
Another way I've thought to relate it to single player games is like if you're playing like a platforming game and there's a boss in the game, right? And he just has this pattern where he keeps doing the same things.
Mega Man boss, I've heard that a lot.
Right, yeah, they'll keep doing the same thing over and over, and you lose, but you get to try again, and eventually you figure out how to counter it. And the Mega Man boss never changes. So if you're playing against someone in real life who is playing like a Mega Man boss, they only do one thing over and over.
But
why would you change your strategy?
I think neutral game is so much more than that, but it's so like it stresses me out. Oh Jesus, my computer keeps falling asleep. It's caused me so much anxiety that I didn't understand. Everyone acted like they knew what it was. Now I realize they didn't know. But I always thought everyone's so much smarter than me. They understand neutral, and I don't. Even though I'm like destroying them on Netflix. This is how insecure I was. And then like I was just so anxious because I just didn't get it because there was so much to think about. If you really want to understand the real inner, especially in Melee in particular, I highly recommend Lod's Guide, but it might take you reading it like a couple times. I read it like 3 or 4 times, and I like get it sort of now. It's great because he explains all these layers and how certain things are reactable and certain things are unreactable, and when things are unreactable, obviously both of you have to choose an option, and that's where like it's called a mix-up. That's where you mix things up. But other than when you're not in the reactable zone, blah blah, and also certain characters have the best stage position for them, and so you have to play around that distribution of weights. There's so much to digest. It's so much to think about, and it's painful. I recommend reading that, and but in general for neutral game, all you need to really know is this: just do your best to see what they're doing and think of a counter for it.
Exactly.
When you actually play Melee, so many different things will happen. So it's overwhelming, but you get better. And if Melee's too fast, you always have VOD analysis. It's not the most fun thing in the world, but like you can analyze the videos and just go.
Oh no.
What beats that? But also in neutral, what I did mostly wasn't that. What I did to get better after I got my and all that fleshed out is I just studied the videos of other players, and I was like, what's a cool thing in neutral that's like sick and I want to do it. And then basically I added that to my repertoire of spam this. So then I was like, oh, Plup does shield drops, now I can shield drop. Plup does dope needle whatever, now I can do that. And I didn't really know when to use it, but I played so much net play, eventually it became part of my skill set. But in terms of like actual decision making, just focus on this. Look at what you got hit by, and what beats that. Or if you won, why did that win? What could have they done to beat you? That's it. But if you really want to digest it, if you get to that really top level, even most like pro Smash players don't really need to dive into it until they're like a top 40 or 50 or something. Then I recommend reading Lod's Guide. Okay, yeah, I've been talking for too long.
Well, I have a question specifically for Azel, because when I play against you, it doesn't seem like you're playing in a way where you're waiting for what I'm gonna do and then countering me. Like sometimes you do, but a lot of times you're just attacking. Like, what are you thinking about when you're like attacking someone?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the main thing I think about is the distance between the two characters
Mhm.
on screen. I try to honestly, I'll just like be super blunt. Like all I do is react.
Oh, okay.
To, like what? Yeah, all I do is react to what you're doing, and then quickly like think of anything that can counter that, and
Mm.
that's what I do.
So you're not
And
looking for anything in particular a lot of the time. You're just like attacking and then reacting.
most of the time, not really. And I'm a little different from what Zayd and Ryan were saying. Like, uh, like you guys were talking about how you don't need to change an option if like it's working all the time, right? Like for me, I kind of don't do that. I actually try to see if there's anything more that I could do to punish like a certain option. You know, I like try to look at all the different options that I have, and that's just because
That's a
yeah.
fair point. Like the F tilt, like what if I just grabbed and I have, assuming I have frame
Yeah,
perfect
yeah.
Right.
tech chases, then I should just grab in place, literally.
I was just trying
just
to make it
never
as like exaggerated as possible.
Yeah.
Right. I
Of
don't
course, you
think.
want to figure out what all of your choices are, and then depending on the situation, you can choose the correct counter.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
for someone who's barely learning, I'm just saying if this is working, don't stop doing it and do something else.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be the same thing. This is
Mhm.
assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wanted to mention when I'm playing or when anyone's playing Melee, they're not thinking about all of it. And they're definitely not thinking about it in words,
Mhm.
like literal words. It's just
Right.
that's not something humans do. It's a very instinctive thing, especially a game like this. Maybe Smash 4 because it's a slower paced neutral game. That you might be able to consciously think a little bit more, but in this game it's too fast. You just literally it's
Yeah.
instincts. Don't stress yourself out when you're playing. When you're performing, let your body just do it. That's what inner game teaches. If this is just about improvement, when you're playing friendlies, when you're analyzing in particular, even when you're playing friendly, it's too fast, so you probably will get overwhelmed. Oh yeah.
And I think that's another thing too, that people need to get used to the pace, which is pretty hard. And I think even me, as much experience as I have, I still get overwhelmed sometimes. And I think this is mostly when I like, again, referring to playing Azel. It's like sometimes I'm in the corner and I'm like, there's so much coming at me that I'm just gonna shield, and then I get grabbed, and then it's like, what do I do now? I think, well, this is a question, I guess, for all of you then. If there is a player that you feel like you're getting overwhelmed by, and I'm sure it has happened to all of us, what do you do at that moment? Like, if like sometimes I would maybe concede and say, "Oh, I'm just unprepared for this. I need to go back home and prepare for it." But let's say it's a tournament match and you're getting overwhelmed by stuff you've never seen before, or some kind of crazy option that you didn't consider. Like, what do you do then, in your play or your thoughts?
If it's a tournament match, I used to think for a long time what many pro smashers believe, you're supposed to look at what they're doing, adapt, figure it out, like it's a puzzle, like an anime, like baby steps where they're like, huh? He's doing this. What can I do to counter it? Not really. If you just actually rely on yourself, what's crazy is effortless. It's relaxed concentration that actually keeps you from being tensed up. You just let the muscles required do the job, and you don't overwhelm yourself. You just kind of do it. Then you just play. And most people don't want to do that because, like, what? We need to figure out what's wrong. We got to adapt. But actually, if you just let yourself do it, you'll naturally adapt, or you'll naturally perform as well as you possibly could. And if you can't beat him still, or her, then you're worse.
Right. You're simply unprepared. Yeah.
But at least you did your best, and you definitely didn't get upset or angry, because if you're the closer you are to playing in the zone, the less your conscious word telling part of your brain will say anything positive or negative, especially negative. That's the worst one. But yeah.
Right. If you're getting overwhelmed in Melee, especially in a tournament set, and especially if it's best out of 3,
just do your best, bro. Just do your best.
Do your best, but I'm gonna be blunt about it. If you have this thought of, "Oh, I'm getting overwhelmed," you lost, dude. You already lost the set. Yep. It's not over yet, but as soon as you're like, "Oh, I'm overwhelmed. What do I do?" That they probably already won. Some stuff you could do. You could try to compose yourself in between stocks. You have time that you're completely invincible. If you're like Sheik, for example, maybe you could Shino stall for a little bit and kind of be like, okay, like stop freaking out. Yeah,
it's sick because you could just take a bit of time on the spawn platform. I think that's such a cool mechanic.
Yeah,
exactly. So the best bet you have is to just calm yourself down, and the way Zaid put it is good, especially if you've read books like The Inner Game of Tennis or like mentality guides. But the simplest way to put it is to just stop thinking if you're thinking that.
Yeah, TLDR, believe in yourself, and then that's it. Stop trying to overcomplicate it. I know that's actually one of the bad parts of my mentality in the past. I'm not the stereotypical get angry, get salty, but I do have mentality issues in that I freak out and I'm like, this is wrong. I'm doing something wrong. What's wrong with me? Like sometimes you're just like losing. Like it's okay. You just need to, and it doesn't need to mean anything. If I'm getting pooped on, like that doesn't mean you're playing bad necessarily. That you don't need to derive meaning based on. You don't need to say like, I am playing bad today. I played bad those 2 stocks even. They don't have to mean something. You just lost the stocks. You can view it objectively. I don't even know what I was talking about.
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I feel like I can't really add on to that. I think they explained it perfectly. so yeah.
As we approach, like we've talked about mentality, we've talked about practicing and tech skill, and we talked about punish game, we talked about neutral. But I think now that we're talking about like what you're thinking on the spot, we start reaching this idea that a lot of people talk about sort of vaguely, but the flow state, right? And do you guys think it's a real thing? And what do you think you guys do to reach that?
It's actually like undebatable, I think, in my opinion. It's definitely a real thing. Like that's not something to question. I think anyone who's like done anything really, even if all you did is grow up as a kid and go to school. I mean, if you're focused on your schoolwork,
like flow state applies to so many things.
Yeah, you could be. I like to call it just being in the zone. That's like the way I first heard about it.
Yeah.
You can get in the zone in many ways, but I think the most common way is to just familiarize yourself with the situation. So like if you just go to a bunch of tournaments and you don't really like think too hard about it or like put too much stock into everything, you're eventually just going to be able to get into the zone automatically.
Yeah, your brain will be used to this. You're just not going to be like, oh, this is a tournament set. Whoa.
Yeah, I think the flow state is definitely real. Like the idea of being in the zone, but like trying to take shortcuts to achieve it is like ridiculous. Doesn't exist.
I also agree. Flow state is super real. The inner game says I'm a huge advocate in inner game. If you disagree, but this the inner game also says flow state is nothing you can just get every time. It's sort of like a gift that you're given at any point in time. You could be given it, but you can take steps. You can take measures to increase your chances, and the main thing is Okay, I'm getting into this too much, but like, there's two selves. Self one is the one that you talk to yourself in words, where you're saying words to yourself. It's sort of like your coach. Self two is the one that does stuff. If you like, you find some people often talk to themselves, or at least in their head. Maybe you see athletes talk to themselves. That clearly shows that there are two separate entities. There is one that's doing stuff and one that's telling stuff. The quieter the first one is, the better the second one will do. However, telling it to shut up doesn't work. And there's a lot of ways to do. If you keep it focused on something else that's also relevant to the game. In tennis, there's the bounce hit exercise. As soon as the ball touches the ground, you say bounce. As soon as it touches your racket, you say hit. And because your brain is preoccupied with getting that timing perfectly, your self one's not gonna say stuff like, "Oh, I'm playing bad today," or "I'm doing hell." Even positive reinforcement is actually bad because you're saying like, "Oh, I'm sick. I'm so good. I can do anything I set my mind." You need to just shut up,
Right?
And you just do it. Your body just does it, and it's very relaxed. You only let the muscles required to do the job do the job. I could go on about this, but just listen to the audiobook of Inner Game. Just stop being lazy.
That's interesting that you point out that even positive reinforcement is bad, because I have noticed not only in myself but in lots of players when I watch them, once they start like playing in a certain way where it's like I'm feeling myself,
That's
like
the mango.
That's the mango. They start to overshoot and they start to overextend and play a little too stylish because they're like, oh, I'm sick, I have momentum, but then you start to overshoot that self one starts saying, oh, I'm sick, so then they just start playing worse, and that allows comebacks, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
That happens to me sometimes.
I think it's common in Fox and Falco.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
With Fox and Falco players.
It just feels so good.
Going back to the bounce hit exercise that Zaid was talking about, I think a lot of fighting game players do this with like head nods.
Oh,
like no matter what happens, the classic fighting game player response
the
is
FGC
to
nod.
go like this.
Yeah. I think that's actually a different topic where the Inner Game says there's like a routine thing where like or I think in Baby Steps too, where the main character would like sort of stretch his racket out. It was sort of a weird routine thing that is sort of, it might have something to do with OCD in a way that sort of resets your brain, something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's more what the head nod thing is.
Okay, so for you, it's a different concept.
I think so. Oh, but it also reflects that you understand things, and it shows a sense of respect to yourself. Like it's like, oh, this makes sense. I got outplayed. It helps you, I guess, not get controlled by emotion. It helps you understand that an exchange happened, whether you lost or won it. But I think a lot of top players actually just do it to shake the pain off. And I think this is proven by that one clip when Lucky dropped the cap of his water bottle, and he.
Like, I've never seen that. I never seen that.
That was so funny.
Yeah.
Like he definitely didn't do it on purpose, and no matter what he says, he did that shit on like subconsciously. He drops. He's like,
it's like a response to, it's like acceptance.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, that happened.
Right.
And then you get past it, right? I think it is a good way to stop your self one from speaking to you. If you're already in the zone and I don't know, you get hit and you got fucked, you lose your stock, you just be like, nod your head. That might prevent you from, getting tilted or like just having yourself one speak at all.
Okay, so this is something interesting I want to point out, that some players are not emotive, right? I think of None, I think of Daigo. Those are the guys who they have absolutely no reaction in their face.
Maybe
absent page. But
maybe he just doesn't show it. I don't know.
Yeah, and I noticed Armada and Mango are actually not that emotive. Mango has been more lately. But anyway, there are some players who are just to everything. Duck is an example. He shakes his head at everything.
Yeah.
I noticed that. But I noticed that the head nod means something. It's usually like not only that it happened, but it's like saying I get it. I get why that happened. The head shake is like I get why that happened, but it happened stupidly. And then there's the like the what happened face, right?
Oh, that's my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any set you watch of me with a webcam will have at least one like.
Yeah. There's a subconscious thing to it. I actually think that if there was no webcam and nobody watching you, some people may not even make any head. But because there's the fact that they're being watched, some people do certain head nods. Some people do the regular head. Yeah, it just depends on who they are, and maybe even the standard head nod, they wouldn't do it if they weren't on camera. Just who knows, but
yeah, it depends.
Yeah,
and for players like None or Daigo, I think there can be a lot of different reasons that you're not emotive.
Right.
But I think the two main ones, and this applies to None and Daigo, and I'll do them in order. The main first one is not caring at all.
Yeah.
So while I do think that None exaggerates how little he really cares about like what happens in the game, I think he definitely cares less than other really good players. The results don't matter to him as much. He's just there to like try to have a fun time and improve, right? I think he has like one of the first mentalities in Melee, actually, because of that. So that's why he's not emotive.
Yeah,
then,
I think saying actually no reason to bring it up.
Okay.
Okay, and then the other side of the coin is like Daigo, someone who is very logical, and their like entire game is centered around this kind of like thinking idea, especially in a slower game like Street Fighter. I actually just think that so much of Daigo is focused on like if you've ever seen the picture of like Mewtwo King where it's like all these calculations happening.
Oh yeah.
He just doesn't have time to make expressions. He's probably feeling things. He just isn't like showing it.
Right.
Yeah, I think some people who are more social tend to like have it more ingrained in their subconscious, especially when they're on camera, to do something. Yeah. Like it's more like it will happen to them. But if someone, I'll use Absent Page as an example. I don't know if this is the case with him, but like when something happens, I don't think Absent Page has like all this social energy where he doesn't care enough about what people think of him to be like, oh yeah, I understand. Like even if he lost in the stock in the most embarrassing way possible, some people who aren't on camera, aren't being watched, they might not make any expression. But they would on stream like make a big what kind of face. But like I think like Absent Page either way just wouldn't care. I don't know. I think it's about personalities too. It's about if you care about the social energy. No, because some people get embarrassed easily.
I have I guess sort of a last or maybe final question for you guys, because I think what we've talked about so far generally applies to everyone. Obviously everybody has different approaches and different methods and stuff. It generally applies to everyone. But once you get at a certain level, once you're getting good and you're used to the path of getting good, self-expression starts becoming a lot more prominent. Obviously, it's even character select alone is like a huge source of self-expression, right? I do think self-expression is important in fighting games, as even if people, I think it's sort of a not really mentioned as much, but like there is a message that you do want to send in your play, whether you think about it or not. For example, I relate to players like Lord, and in Street Fighter there's Storm Kubo, and like these are guys who want to do crazy things in the game and then they laugh and smile because of it while they're playing. Like that's just part of their personality. The personality comes out in their play. So I'm gonna ask you guys, like, what do you think is it about you that only you do, I guess, or like what kind of, like, how do you want to play the game? Like, because these things are gonna come out in your personality. They're gonna manifest themselves in the way you play on screen. And it's very clear once you hit the top level of Melee, you get to Armada, Mango, PP, Mewtwo King, Plup. Like they're all great and they're all at a similar level, but it just manifests itself completely differently in all of them. So I hand that over to you guys. Like, what do you think about that?
I guess I could start. I'd say that it's not it's not necessarily like always something that comes out of your personality. I think that like we talked about, like there are many different routes toward learning the game, and I think sometimes it really is just like the cards just fall that way. It just works out in such a way, like for example, Mewtwo King, like he's known for like 50-50s in a strong punish game, but I don't really think that says anything about him, despite like what the Smash documentary might say. It's like, oh, you know, he's the robot, whatever.
I do think there are little glimpses, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, also for other players though, it could mean more to them. Like Mango is cited as a person who like really puts like, you know, he wants to show people that he's better than them, whatever, be aggressive, be cool, and that's how his personality is too. He's very showman-y, and he wants to like.
I do think philosophies are almost always expressed in playstyle, at least in some form of the game. Mewtwo King's, I think, would just be punish game. He really wanted to optimize his punishes, and it shows. And he knows so much about frame data. Like, obviously, the documentary is like, oh, he's a frame data nerd. Yeah, you can see it. He'll do hitboxes where you're like, that's a thing. like I don't know, like first hit nair with Marth, or like tipper down smash on Peach with Marth. Like edge guard, you can see he knows the hitboxes in a way. No, I think everyone at least has some glimpse of their personality or their philosophy. I think philosophy is sort of part of personality.
Yeah. Okay. If you look at it that way, then yeah. Because I was gonna say it's more just like how they learn. That's what really shows.
Right.
When you're playing, and yeah, like your philosophy for how the game should be played, or like how you learn.
Right.
So what do you say yours is, Ryan?
Yeah, I was gonna say for me, I think it's just being as clean as possible, and I think it's because I'm very direct and purposeful in the things that I do and my personality. So like, I never do anything for no reason, right? And I think I want that to show with my character. Like the antithesis of that would be like West Balls, who like he's really funny and like a cool guy, but I just despise his Falco for like doing all these ridiculously unnecessary things. Like especially the tech skill routines in between stocks just frustrate the hell out of me. Like why do anything in the game, especially in the tournament, if it's not helping you win, right? And I know I have the meme video where I do the invisible shine, but what people don't get is that was the meme, because it's like that's the opposite of how I was when I played. Because especially then, I was like not cool, very lame, and I would just sort of be full hopping, double jumping. But then I would do this ridiculously technical thing. It's sort of supposed to be to like make fun of it. So I guess what I want to show is that I want to have very clean movement and make little mistakes. It's okay if I get mixed up, but just very few tech skill mistakes.
For me, my philosophy was from the very beginning that Sheik's the best character in the game. I'm going to prove it. I think because she beats every character, I want to play in such a way that reflects the way you should play as Sheik in every matchup. And so I don't want to do stuff. I'm very not on the spectrum of cool guy, I guess. Like, if in the case of Mango, like sometimes objectively you should probably be not doing a very aggressive option here in certain matchups if you have center, so something like that. But like, how people say he doesn't shoot the gun enough, stuff like that. I want to just do above all else, my priority is doing solving what. Just doing the right thing, I suppose. The right thing in regards to the opponent, obviously, which is implied. But I also like, my personality is very, I guess, spunky and sort of obnoxious, and so I'm very. I think that's reflected in my playstyle too, whether I like it or push so many buttons, and I move a lot. I dash out of crouch an unnecessary amount. And the main thing is I do run off up B edge guards because I can't stop myself from doing them. I just think they're really cool. And other than that, an overarching thing is Drug Fox's philosophy to the game, and taking a large inspiration from Plup, because I think Plup is the best Sheik, and I think he's the coolest Sheik, the fastest Sheik, and I want to play just like that. I enjoy solo practice, probably because I have sort of an OCD personality, and so I'm super down to grind movement and stuff like that. So because of that, I'm so willing to play like Plup and try to be like Plup. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'll just be like Swedish because he doesn't move that much, but he's still hella good. I'm super down because I love pushing buttons, and also Drug Fox because I've seen his philosophy has been proven to me to be highly intelligent and works so well, and he has a really good philosophy, and I believe all the stuff he says, and that's sort of reflected in my play where I spam the Sammy Nair, the low Nair on shield, and it's a very hard tech skill maneuver because you have to fast fall before you input Nair, and but I've grinded it so much you could see me. There's one time where I just like Sammy Naired some guy's shield like 3 times as if I'm a multi box. Yeah, so I think my Drug Fox / do everything right philosophy, inspired by Plup because I love tech skill, inspired by my spunky nature to do a lot of spammy movement things and run off up Bs. I think that's basically a combination of all that is my playstyle.
Okay.
Yeah. What was the question again? I like.
Does your
Totally lost.
personality manifest in your play? Like, what is there anything that certain idea that you have in the game that you want to express, or just naturally comes out in the way you play?
Okay. I feel like for me, I just want to show how creative I can be, and I want to show how like beautiful the game can be. You know, choosing as many different options as I possibly can. Like I mentioned before, that's what I love doing, right? I love exploring and stuff like that. I do like, how do I say it? Like, I do care about like what is like right or what is good, but at the same time, I like just really want to see what else is out there and just see if I can come up with anything new. That's really it for me.
I dig it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I
I think that's.
it shows. I mean, it really shows when you play. So
That's actually so cool because I kind of expected Azel to just kind of be like, "Oh, I don't know."
I don't know.
That was a really good response, though.
Yeah.
And I think it's true, definitely for you. You have like a million different ways to just respond to one like little thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was honestly about to.
I think the only game you can express that pretty freely, and in my biased opinion, much more so than in.
Yeah, I agree. It's probably true. I do want to talk about myself a little bit because you guys knew me when I was a grinder. When I played Ice Climbers, I think for me the approach to the game was like, obviously I want to wobble someone, but as much as possible, I wanted to explore the neutral of Ices in ways that other people don't do, and I also enjoyed being creative. I mean, I'm an artist, but I think I was obsessed.
When you first started, the wobbling wasn't a thing. So what would you do?
Right. So back in the day, because of desyncing, like in 2006, 2007, because desyncing was a thing, I was like, how can I make this mechanic useful?
As broken as possible?
I didn't think about broken. I wasn't as ruthless back
as
then.
optimized as possible? I'm just saying, like, yeah.
That's not how I thought.
Optimize, or did you want it to be cool?
I was just thinking... I was more of an explorer, like Azel, I guess. I was like, how can I use a different move in the neutral? What are the uses for it? Because that's how I'm able to think on the fly when I'm playing. I didn't really think too much about optimization, because I think when I think about that, it starts to limit me. Like, what is the right thing to do? I would rather think, like, what can I do here, and it might work. I think it's transitioned to how I play now, because I'm not as invested in winning. How I play now, and this might be very visible when I'm playing, I want to introduce humor into the game, because I think the idea of moving forward creates variance, and when there is variance, when I'm right point blank and nothing is reactable, I want to do something really random, and then if it works, and then I get to laugh, I feel like this is very present in I think the closest player in Spirit is Storm Kubo from Street Fighter. He plays Zangief and Abigail, and he's always laughing. So that's just how I like to play. And as Ice Climbers, it's very possible. You just run up towards someone, make them do something random, and then call it out. That's a grappler mentality, I think. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah. Anything else,
That's
guys? I,
really
I
cool.
I think that was pretty much. I think I really wanted to focus on that last part because it's like even though everyone is trying to get good, everyone and their mom's trying to get good, it starts to manifest itself in different ways, which is what makes fighting games fun. You pick a different character and you do
Mhm.
different stuff, and everybody has a different way of expressing it.
Yeah, like no matter how hard you try, I think everyone's going, and everyone's playstyle is gonna have a little something that I think and interesting.
Mhm.
And I've never seen that in any other fighting game. All I can say is Melee sick, and I'm truly blessed to have played this game over any other game and have met this wonderful community.
It's interesting though
Yeah.
because I've seen it in Marvel, for example, because there's so many characters to pick, and there is a lot of things you can do in the execution. That there is a lot of variance. Obviously, Marvel's tiers are so lopsided that everyone starts to look the same, but it's still there. Like I think games with less variance, which is what fighting games have been moving towards, like Street Fighter V, a lot of people hate it because you can't really express yourself. You have to play a certain way, right? So I
Mhm.
think Melee, the idea that there is so much you can do, is what makes it cool.
I was also gonna point out Marvel vs. Capcom 2,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar. You'd have to ask my brother about that one.
Right.
All
But-
about the fighting games.
Following what Zayd said, we will be blessed to ever see another fighting game with as much depth and variance as Smash Brothers Melee ever again.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
You got a link in the description, the video, Andre.
Oh
We will
my
be
God.
blessed, dude. I think that's a pretty good concluding statement, actually. Yeah. Okay, last thing. This is what I did in last night's podcast. Last thing I want to do is plugs. Where can people follow you on Twitter or Twitch? And I'll put it in the link in the description.
For me, Spark
you go first.
676 on Twitch and Spark _ SSBM on Twitter. I guess that's it.
For me, it's Azel _ SSBM on Twitter,
On Twitter?
and that's pretty much it for me.
And you don't stream, right?
I don't stream yet.
Okay.
Yet.
And wait, why don't you give your Twitch name anyway? Because I know it's AZ3L _, I
It's-
think.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
AZ3L _
No.
Yeah, I don't like it either, but hey, I gotta take it.
Your Twitter used to be the most
Oh,
obnoxious.
hey, let's not get into that.
But it was
Should I
it
say
Azel
it was like
Uwu?
4Z3
Oh, yeah.
1
Very
_ uwu.
Yeah.
Uwu.
That's
That's
so
yeah.
bad. Oof.
Hey, at least it's not like that anymore.
Yep. Live and learn.
Okay, Ryan.
You can follow me on Twitter and Twitch at Young Traplord 209. No O in Young.
Young. And
And,
there's no spaces?
No, there's no spaces. I'm also Young Traplord on YouTube. I don't post there anymore, but it has like a melee rap from Coco and then a couple of spacey tutorials that I think are pretty relevant.
Okay. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. I want to thank everyone for watching and listening. If you stayed here for the whole thing, I want to thank you guys for coming through and being a part of this discussion. I thought it was very cool. Obviously, you can follow me at twitter.com/chokenator, twitch.tv/chokenator, or subscribe to my YouTube. And again, just say goodnight to everyone, guys. Peace
Yeah.
out.
Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having
Hey.
me.
All right.
It was fun.
Yeah, thanks. It's
All right,
cool.
see y'all later.
Even though I said like, oh, sorry.
All right. Okay, bye.